Welcome aboard, fellow passengers. I hope you enjoy your flight today. I am BusyBee, your pilot, and I'm joined, as always, by my reluctant co-pilot, Hijinx. This week, we will dive into costumes and props and how they all tie into the theme of the episode, as well as something else that Hijinx has decided to ask me, and I do not know what it is, but we'll find that out in a minute, because now it's time for the pop culture of 2004. A book was released this year that probably didn't mean much to the people in 2004. But it actually became something huge over a decade later. It became a cult phenomenon. In fact, do you want to know what the book is? You'll have to keep listening because this is Lost State, my podcast. Hello, Hijinks. How are you?
I'm fine, busy. How are you?
I'm good. All right. Are you going to ask your question now, or are we going to wait until after we go through the episode?
I'm gonna wait to see if you caught it. Let's put it that way.
Okay. We'll see if I caught it. Okay. But do you know what book was released?
It would be an Easter egg.
Ooh, I like Easter eggs. I don't know if I caught it. We'll find out if I did. But do you know what book was released in 2004 that became a cult phenomenon? There are actually a few, but the one I'm thinking of in particular.
I don't even remember what year this came out. So
2004.
Maybe you only said I have no idea.
Ron Chernow published Hamilton.
Oh.
And of course, as we know, Lin-Manuel Miranda would eventually take that on a vacation and read it and decide to write a whole musical about it. About this one person in history and some of the, surrounding figures, minor guys, like Washington and Jefferson.
It took him a good 7 years to do that, though. So
yeah, what was it, like in 2009 he first performed one of the songs, and it wasn't until 2016 that the play was actually out in theaters.
And I don't think he read it in 2004 either, because it was
I don't believe so.
Yeah, because he picked it up at like an airport or something when he was going on vacation. Yeah, so
yeah, but it's crazy to think that this one random book would turn everything on its head.
Not a random.
Well, for 2004, it was random.
Yes.
Yeah, so in this episode, I want to kind of go over some of the stuff we saw in the background and the costume choices, because I feel like we do talk about like the fuselage and things outside the show. This episode, I do want to focus inside the show because I did notice a few things. But before we get into it, pause now if you have not watched the episode. We'll give you about 4 seconds. Longer if you pause, but. And we're back. Hijinks. So the show, you're mentioning specifically that something happened that I should have caught. And we're going to see if I caught it. I noticed Sawyer was reading a book, and I'm wondering if this is what you mentioned.
No.
It's not. Well, the title of the episode is called White Rabbit, and he's reading a book with a bunny on it. It might be Alice in Wonderland. I can't tell. My phone quality was too low to actually catch it.
You're watching it on your phone?
Look, it was a long day at work. I didn't have time. And this will actually be one of the few times that we record a single episode because I didn't have time to watch both, and we will figure that out. Yeah, no, he was reading a book with a rabbit on the cover, and I thought that was
You probably could have. I was going to say, well, I don't know if all the blogs exist anymore, but yeah, there used to be, there was a list somewhere of all the books that.
I know Gilmore has a list, but
no,
I didn't know Lost had one too.
Yeah, there used to be a list of all the books that he was reading and stuff like that.
So you're reading on Lost. I am.
I'm not sure if the list still exists, but yeah, there's the Lostopedia or whatever, if that's still around.
Oprah.com has it. Oh, he was reading Watership Down.
Oh, yep, bunnies.
However, this incorrectly lists it as the first appearance is episode 6. So I guess he's reading it in the next episode too. But he definitely has that cover on the book he's reading in this episode.
That makes sense. Yeah, because there's a bunny on the cover of that book, so that makes sense.
Yeah, there is. There's a big brown bunny.
Big
brown bunny. The other thing I noticed was that almost all the main characters were wearing a white shirt.
Dirty, but yeah, I could see that. I think that's
Well,
true.
Kate's and Saeed's were pretty clean and white, but Sawyer
I
and
think
Locke both had dirty-ish white shirts, but they were white nonetheless.
I assume you're referring to the men because I'm pretty sure Shannon's is like pink.
Kate, Kate was wearing a blinding white tank top. And
Um,
technically Charlie had black and white stripes and but Hurley and Michael were the two that didn't have white shirts on, but still I was like, there's a lot of people wearing white in this episode. I hope it's before Labor Day. But if I
mhm.
timed these episodes correctly, no, it was after Labor Day.
It's
They're
after Labor Day, but
they
they're
are all in they're all in the
the ocean somewhere. So
well,
I
one
mean, they're
lady's in the
filming it.
ocean, Joanna's in the ocean.
Not anymore. She drowned.
Well, I'm saying she's in the ocean. She's
Yes,
in the ocean.
in the ocean.
Okay. So what is it you think I'm supposed to have caught?
There was a number, but not Hurley's numbers.
Was 47 listed or what was it?
There are 47 of us.
46 now. Okay,
Decade,
yeah.
decade after Joanna drowned. Yep. So that is an alias number. But like I said, that's a JJ number to the alias fans. So like I said, what that one of JJ's favorite things to do
Hmm.
is to drop alias numbers in other projects that he does. He did in the Mission Impossible movies. He would drop 47 all over the place. Pier 47. I mean, this
Floor
so
47.
floor 47 is, so I don't even, I mean, I'm sure I realized it when I was watching it way back when, because at the time, Alias and Lost were crossing over because Alias was still airing the first, it was in season 3 or 4 when the first season of Lost was going on.
Hmm.
But yeah, so there were 47 until Joanna drowned. So now there's 46. So 47 actually got mentioned twice.
Nice.
But yeah, there's since there's no Hurley episode yet, they haven't mentioned the other numbers because, like I
Yet I'm
told
waiting,
you,
bated breath. I really
well,
needed to
because
happen.
I mean, like so when from what Javi said, um, when they were doing that summer when they were kind of churning out the initial character episodes. Yeah, Hurley wasn't one of the initial character episodes, so the numbers were not worked into the episodes until I think after the Hurley episode. So we haven't gotten the Hurley episode yet, and I mean I think we're still a few away from it because I know that what the next episode is, and it's definitely not that one either. But yeah, um,
Unfortunately, I figured out what the next episode is because the Watership Down page I found, it lists what the next episode title is. So I figured out what it is.
I know that's Javi's first episode too, so I know that one.
Ah, yay.
Um, so yeah, I remember that one specifically. But yeah, so we will not really have any of the numbers start popping up until Hurley's episode, except for isn't the Oceania flight?
We haven't heard what flight number it is yet.
Okay, yeah,
Not
that
that I
makes
caught.
oh, all right.
All I know
Yeah,
is that in this episode, which is a Jack episode, I did not guess that correctly. I saw the title and I was thinking maybe Charlie, like going down the rabbit hole with the drugs. I forgot that it was the White Rabbit,
no,
Jack chasing his
no,
dad. He has dead daddy issues.
yeah, that that this this episode hit a little different considering what's happened in my life.
Oh,
Yeah, that
I'm
was a little harder
sorry.
this time around. Well, that not that you can control that, but yeah, that was a little different this time around
Uh,
for
uh,
me.
yes, I guess that would be a smidge bit different. Um, yeah, I was trying to figure out what the episode was based on the title. My notes just said Charlie, drugs going down the rabbit hole. First two sentences in my detail notes throughout the episode said kid. Oh, Jack.
Well, they did the eye open, and that's always
It
Jack.
doesn't mean that it's always Jack. They've had an eye open on Terry O'Quinn before.
Yeah, it's usually well, Jack and Locke are like that,
The
the black
powerhouses.
and white. Well, they're like the backgammon piece, the black and white. They are kind of the because well, like they had that whole interaction in the woods where you know Locke is fully embraced like the magic of the island, and he's like,
I've seen the
so
center, yada yada.
I looked into the eye. He actually wrote his little quote. I looked into the eye of this island, and what I saw was beautiful. Like, so he,
Oh, you
because
writing down quotes too? I got a couple.
I did, well, because, oh, that's the whole thing. It's like because the island, quote unquote, healed him, he is like happy to be there. And as we saw from this episode, Jack is like being overwhelmed with this pressure of
Why are you
being,
guys following me?
yeah, why is, who put him in charge? Well, and he got put in charge because of essentially that first day, his heroics or whatever of running around trying
And
to save
he
people and
took
directing people.
charge. He told
Yeah,
people to do certain things. He asked for help. He made sure to save people. They already saw him in that day one in a leadership role. And then after that, he's like, why are you guys following me? Stop following me. I'm
yeah.
not the leader. I can't do things.
Well,
I don't save people.
he started, through like his lack of sleep and that instance of say accidentally quote unquote saving Boone instead of the lady who was drowning. He had that, and part of it is, well, at this point in time we don't know the whole story between of what happened with him and his dad yet. We only have like a partial story,
Mm-hmm.
so that's still kind of a mystery to those who haven't watched the whole
So we'll
show
try
yet.
not to spoil too much. All right,
No,
I do have to
but
say, why did he think Boone's voice was that high in a scream? Say Boone's like,
well,
I got you. It's okay now. Did you get her? Get who? Wait, what?
yeah, Boone is very pretty, very
He is
girly
pretty.
features, and so he was like, he probably screams like a girl, so he just went with that. Um, I kind of, you forget how much of a douche canoe Boone is this early in this show. Just like you forget how, I mean, like that is the funny part about going back and watching it all over for the first time. You forget how much of an asshole Sawyer is, how much of a douche canoe Boone can be, and anyway, it's fun
How
revisiting it all and going,
secretive a certain
oh,
couple is being. But we won't talk about them this episode. They're coming up. Okay, so you said
what's
you
her?
wrote down quotes. The first quote I put was "I don't swim" by Charlie. Is that he said don't, not can't. It's just I'm not going out there. That's basically what he said. He said
No, he said he can't swim.
he said
Did he
I
say I
don't
don't?
swim. I don't swim. I rewound it. I'm like, did he say don't or can't? That's a very crucial
I don't swim.
contraction.
I don't swim.
I'm like, okay, so you're making Jack go out?
I don't swim. Oh, he
Also,
disappeared.
uh, also, Charlie has a tattoo that says "Living is easy with eyes closed," and I love that quote. Now that I think about it, it makes me. I find it hilarious that that's tattooed on him, the drug addict. Oh no, what am I taking? Oh no.
And also, he always looks hilarious when they have him do the drug things.
I love how the camera goes like slightly out of focus on him every time because he's like in a daze kind of thing. And then Locke said two really cool things. One was crazy people don't know they're going crazy. They think they're getting saner.
That's true.
And the other is a leader can't lead until he knows where he's going.
Yep. Well, Jack said um, one of the famous lost quotes, which comes up, I think, a few times in the show, but is one of the most quoted lost quotes, which is, if we can't live together, we're going to die alone, which is what he says towards the end of the episode. And that's a
Yeah.
like big time lost quote.
They're like,
Yeah. But I can't, there's, um, when he, yeah, and him finding the little, the water thing.
I wrote creepy
The,
doll.
the Oh yeah, the dog. No, but I mean, just the place where the water is, that little cave or whatever.
Hmm.
Um, that's one of the little turning points where they're now 6 days in, and they're making their next step. And yeah, the doll and all that stuff. I oops, excuse me as I yawn. But yeah, um, I knew it was going to lead up to that. I remember that it was leading up to that, but and I did remember the casket being in there and it being empty.
I did remember the casket was empty. Once I knew which episode it was, I did remember that this is where he confronts his spooky ghost island father. And we find his empty casket, which means it's either not so spooky, lost real father, or spooky island father and body is missing. One of the two. I'm not spoiling which. Basically, because I probably don't remember which at this point, but that's a different issue. Okay, was there anything else you wanted to talk about the episode before I dive into the costuming?
No, that's it. And first, I want to dive into you calling it costuming instead of wardrobe. This is not a play.
First of all, I was in musicals and plays in high school and
I
in
know
somewhat recent years. I'm used
it's
to calling it the costume
wardrobe.
department, not the wardrobe.
I kept saying, did they break
Look,
out in masks at some point? I
I
don't
I've
remember.
brought up Hamilton already this episode. We are going musical theater.
No,
Speaking of which,
they were wearing wardrobes.
the reason why I chose Hamilton is actually because of the name of the episode. It has nothing to do with Hamilton. It's the fact that White Rabbit is a song by Egypt Central. And so I had that song stuck in my head, and I thought of other songs that get stuck in my head, and I thought of Hamilton.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
How dare you? White Rabbit by Egypt Central is an amazing song. Came out in 2011 though, so I couldn't use that as my tie-in for the pop culture. But no, so talking about wardrobe, a couple of the interesting choices I saw made this episode was one very specifically was the white shirts almost everywhere, all throughout the episode. You can't tell I had to cut something because I used a naughty word. But it was all of that white. But I also noticed that Clara was actually wearing a black tank top in comparison. Now, I don't know if that was intentional, but knowing what we know about Clara and her pregnancy, very specifically the baby, I'm wondering if that was a very specific strategic choice. And then Charlie's wearing a black and white striped shirt. So I'm not sure how far down the rabbit hole, for lack of a better phrase, the costuming department went. The wardrobe department. I'm not sure how privy they were to the writers and how far they had written into the season. But I just thought there was very interesting choices that were being made for costuming.
They, I mean, they would have had, they had the first season I mean, they had season by season figured out.
Well, we didn't have the numbers figured out.
They had the first, like I said, they had like
They
for
probably
the
had like the
main
first
characters.
6 to 10
They had
episodes.
they had the main characters that they had planned on. Um,
Not really.
and and they had, because they were pitching the show to the network. So they had like the main characters and what their initial story arcs
Hmm.
Excuse me if you may hear a cat.
That's fine. He got left in at the last episode, so easy too. Easy too.
Will you stop it? He's trying to get in my way. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, not knowing about the numbers, he just didn't write into the episodes. I mean, that doesn't mean that it's not part of the story arc. It's different. Um,
But going
I mean,
back
I
into
think they.
wardrobing,
I don't. Yeah, go ahead.
going back into the wardrobing though, knowing what we know about the numbers and how those get integrated in, this wardrobe department is so intricate. They are very good at what they do. As I remember a specific episode, I don't even know which episode it is. I just remember it happens. Somebody's running through an airport and they run past a girls' soccer team and all the girls' soccer jerseys 4, 8, 15, 16, 23, 42.
Yes.
Give or take a number. But the fact that the
Why are
costume
you're
department,
spoiling it?
if you don't know what the numbers are, they are 4, 8, 15, 16, 23, 42,
But
which
you're
I mentioned in
spoiling.
previous episodes. The soccer girls being there is not a spoiler. We do have flashbacks to the airport occasionally. I'm not spoiling anything. Just at some point, there's a group of soccer girls and they have the jersey numbers in that order. And I always remember that. Another costuming or wardrobing decision in this episode was actually Michael's shirt. I'm pretty sure that is the shirt he wore in just the last episode. And now the sleeves are torn off of it because they had to use it to bind his leg. But he's torn the other sleeve off now as well.
Well, he would look stupid with just one torn off sleeve.
No, he'd be making a fashion statement on an island that has none. Except for shit, but her opinion doesn't count. I just so seeing like those like little things that they integrate all throughout it. And I love the fact that Kate is sitting there sorting clothes. Like, what's practical, what's impractical, what can we get away with in the show, what can't we? Basically what it boils down to. Jeans? Sure. Lacy camisole top? No.
Though, I mean, I don't understand why that was impractical considering they're
Maybe it
on
was
a
like a
beach.
silky nightgown kind of style. I don't
I don't
know.
know. I looked at it and I was like, I was looking at that and looking at what she was wearing. And I was like, why is that inappropriate? I mean, it's a freaking desert. But okay.
It's
I
not
mean,
a
I'm not
desert,
a
it's a
desert, but like I was like, they're
there's
on a
sand.
beach.
It's
There's
sandy.
oh stuff.
I also really appreciate the props department. I'm not sure if there was another motivation behind Watership Down, but the fact that they managed to put it into the episode that had the title of White Rabbit, I really do appreciate.
Well, oh yeah, that would have been intentional.
He has bunny. Bunny.
Bunnies all the time. Well, I mean, and they were pretty heavy handed with the White Rabbit because Jock. I just call John Locke Jock.
Jacques. Did we come up with a new ship name? I'm not sure I like this ship.
He's shipping himself.
That'd be either John and Locke, so himself, or Jack and Locke, which is
No,
not okay.
I was shipping him with himself. Anyway, Locke mentioned the White Rabbit and how everybody was chasing one, and so he was asking Jack what his White Rabbit was, and of course for Jack it's his dad, or the ghost of his dad.
His dead daddy issues.
But anyway, the one thing I did start thinking about with this is just remembering all the interconnections to come kind of sprang up into my head, which I'm kind of excited about.
Oh, same.
Because I had forgotten about a lot of things. You're bouncing.
Yes, I'm bouncing. I'm excited because in this episode, it was, I think, the first real flashback that had another character appear, not necessarily on the plane. Technically, it was the airport, but we saw Jin standing behind Jack in line after Jack's
yeah.
small outburst. It's technically the first
Yeah.
instance of them like being near each other outside the plane. And it will happen
Yeah.
more and more frequently and further away from the airport as the episodes progress. But I think I do remember that instance of Jin being there. And if I'm correct, we'll actually see another point of view of it in the next episode. Possibly. Maybe.
Well, I mean, yeah, I think we see it eventually. I can't remember if it's the next episode or not, but yeah, I mean, the whole interweaving of the various I mean, their stories, obviously.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's just, I mean, it's different, coming back to it and just seeing it while knowing what happens versus seeing it when you don't know what happens is definitely different. And
Hmm.
like I said, since I haven't done the rewatch before, it is definitely different coming back and be now that I know what happens, watching it from that perspective is definitely different. So that's been fun.
Yeah, but it's also frustrating being
I'm
on
spoiled.
this side. It's frustrating being on the side of it because we know what happens. And again, my note started with, I just really want so and so.
You're waiting for so and
Where
so to
he's
show up.
at. It should be any episode now, right? I don't know when
I
he
don't.
comes into play, but because I know he comes into play and I'm waiting for his character, I almost forget what those first few episodes are because
Who are you? Who are you waiting for? You can. Oh,
I want
I
him.
love him.
He's
Oh,
such a great actor, and I want to see
I think
him.
he's still quite a few away. I
Gosh,
don't think
dang
he's
it.
until I think he's not until mid-season. I don't know what you're waiting for, but he's not until I think he's like a
In my
mid.
head, he was there before episode 6. Clearly, that's not the case if I have not seen him yet.
No, I think he was closer to, yeah, because they didn't start getting into that freaky deaky stuff until further into the season. Oh well, no, wait a second. Well, because he might be pretty soon because it you got into that.
I was gonna say, I thought we had like an episode or two with him before anything starts to happen involving his name.
Well, because then they start getting into the manifest
Mm-hmm.
and what's his name. Yeah, so it should because he gets involved with Claire.
Mm-hmm.
Remember? Because then yeah, so it should be pretty soon because people start going like,
Ooh,
well,
is
because then they just talked about the 47. Yeah, and where'd he come from? So yeah, I think now that they've found the the water source and they're in the jungle now,
mm-hmm.
and they'll
Now
be
that they're
going back and forth
venturing
between
off the beach, that's gonna
now that they're
create a
going
little bit of
between the
chaos.
two. Yeah,
Confusion. Some subterfuge. Some of my actor I've been waiting on.
I I I have. There's one thing I'm waiting for because I can't wait to explain it because it's something that I'm sure you don't know anything about, but it was something that was very big on so much. Um,
Oh, great. Now I have to wait for stuff.
well, I there, there's one word for it, and it's not spoiling anything. It's called skeeve.
Keith.
Skeeve.
Like you say skeeve, and I think it's skeevers because I play Skyrim. So I don't know what it is.
It's the combination of two characters named Scott and Steve.
Oh, is that because you couldn't remember who was who?
Yeah,
I do
like
know about this somewhat. When they show up, I want you to do a little bit of a dive.
yeah, it's pretty funny, but yeah. So anyway, I keep waiting for Skeeve to show up, so I'm
So
excited.
we are trying our best not to give spoilers. Steve, not too big of a spoiler.
Skeeve is not. They're background characters.
The name of my character that I'm waiting for is a spoiler because I
It's a
don't want to give
spoiler. Yeah.
anything away. I'm trying really hard not to reveal his name. If you know who it is, shush your mouth in the comments. We might have actually people who are new to the show. No spoilers. We do our best to not give spoilers. I'm mad enough that I know the name of next week's episode.
You're a dork.
I am a dork. I'm your dork. You birthed
You are
me.
my dork. I birthed. You made it sound like I burped you.
Birthed.
Birthed. Okay.
With an
That's
F and a T and a D in there. And she has Halloween nails. There's like kikis. There's a pumpkin. There's easy more kikis. Kikis and pumpkins and ghosts. And what's on the pinky? Meow meow.
Spidey's.
Ooh. So I like how you have my cat 4 times on your fingers.
Two. I think two of them might be olive.
Okay, 2 can be olive, but the other 2 are not.
Not.
Very aggressive sounding. All right, was there anything else you wanted to talk about this episode, or because I know I have at least 1 or 2 more things. But I want to make sure you get your stuff out of the way because you rarely take notes, and she's for those of you who can't see because I never post the videos. She's actually holding up a notebook that has a pen in it, so she took notes this time. I always have my notes with me, but she did something I can't say on the internet.
Yes,
She
you
tried to make
can.
me
You
read
just
between
have
the
to.
lines, but she forgot the lines.
No, stop it.
Okay.
No. Um. No, the only other line I put was I need it to be done. I need to bury my father, which
I need it.
resonated with me.
Do you want to talk about that any bit or no?
Yeah, well, I mean, I could say a little bit, just that, when this show first aired, this episode wasn't really a problem. Didn't really resonate as much with me as it did this time because I did recently lose my father,
Mm-hmm.
BusyBee's grandfather. And
Mm-hmm.
so, yeah, there were parts of this episode that kind of hit me a little harder. And I would assume would probably, and I didn't have problems with my father. Jack did, obviously.
That made it a little bit easier to bear, I'm assuming. Like, oh, thank God my father and I loved each other. Not like that.
Yes. No, but just talking about the whole,
I need
when
to
he's
get it,
standing
be done with it.
in the
Airport losing his mind.
yeah, in the airport, yelling at the lady about how, just I need to bury my father. I mean, I kind of I felt that. So yeah, there were parts of it that were a little bit difficult to.
Honestly, part, part of that resonated with me, but for a semi-different reason. I parted on not the greatest of terms with a really good friend of mine many years ago, and he recently passed. And this episode kind of reminded me, like, I really wish I'd had that time to fix things. Because seeing Jack's face after he noticed his dad was actually gone, it's kind of what I felt in that moment.
Yeah.
So a little bit of hate there, a little bit of self-loathing, but that's me.
Hmm.
But so that episode will always hit different depending on where you are in your own life and your own journey. Like you didn't do much for you 20 years ago. Now, ouch.
Yeah.
Me 20 years ago, meh. Now, ouch.
Well, 20 years ago, you were 10.
20 years ago, I was 10 and I did not have daddy issues.
You should have, because you're dead. No, I'm just kidding.
Now, behave. So the other 2 things I was going to mention when it comes to like the writing team and stuff like that, and you and I were looking earlier, it was, um, who was it written by? Mr. Lieber?
Christian Taylor.
Christian Taylor.
Lieber's one of the
I'm sorry,
creators.
Lieber's one of the creators. Yes, Christian Taylor. And then it was also partially edited or looked over by Paul Dini. And
Love Paul
we've
Dini.
talked about Paul Dini before. We do like him. Christian Taylor, not as familiar with. We can always do some digging. And we'll spend an episode in the future going over the various writers and what other stuff they've done. I don't want to spend this episode on because I was going into costuming and wardrobing and props. But a couple of the things they did in this episode I found great because it also talked about going down the rabbit hole. One, Jack almost falls off a cliff, which looks like a hole in the ground because he is
Which,
following his rabbit hole.
by the way, I have to make one comment. Him trying to climb up the side of the thing. So the hilarious thing is, you'll notice anytime they're climbing up the side, like when they were doing that, trying to find higher ground,
Mhm.
there is it will almost always look the same a little bit because they would use the side of a highway in Hawaii. It's like it's off the side of a road, and they use the same like location almost every time.
Look, Hawaii,
And
big
I've
place,
seen it.
granted, mostly populated. They had to find
Well,
those narrow
yeah,
sections that were
but where
not.
they, but yeah, I mean, and I think they had it in one of the magazines because there was a lost magazine, and I have like a lot of issues of it somewhere in storage. But yeah, there was like this, there's like, there was like this, you know, that
Grassy
had like
slope.
the roots. Well, yeah, it had like the roots and stuff, and but it had like enough of a steep slope, but you know, they could not actually do it on, obviously they, safety wise with the actors, they couldn't do it on some, on an actual cliff. And also just anyway, so it's almost always the same patch of land. So a lot of that's going to look like where he was climbing looks a lot like where they were climbing to get to higher ground if you look very closely. But go ahead. I just remembered that.
That's awesome. I didn't know that. That's pretty funny.
It's
The
the
other
same
thing
patch. It's
is
a good place.
there's another hole comment when they talk about a rat will always lead you to its hole or to its nest.
Rabbit.
No, a rat.
There's
Because
a
they were
rabbit.
trying to find Sawyer's rat nest, where he was hoarding his stuff.
I thought he said rabbit because I wrote down a rabbit, but go ahead.
I think he said rat
What the
because
heck?
I don't think Saeed would ever use nice terms. Bunnies are too nice in comparison. A rat is a rat, unless it's Rizzo. Because
Mm,
Rizzo the rat, definitely. But also, Kate tackling Sawyer. He's like, I made this birthday wish 4 years ago. Ew. Creepy Uncle Sawyer.
creepy Uncle Sawyer. Why do you have to go there?
Because that's the vibe it gave. It was weird. Like, I know they have a small fling, and that's what the whole shipper war started, but oh, big stretch. Oh, yeah, big stretch. Not you, Gracie. Lucy had the big stretch. Sorry, I'm being attacked by dogs.
Is that my
Yeah.
granddog?
Yes, she walked away, and so did the other one. Knock was in here for a split second and walked away because he saw the dogs were here.
He's like, oh, dogs.
Ew, dogs. So yeah, I love the fact that Saeed was referring to him as a rat. Like he's not going to use a nice term. He's not. So he's a rat. Dirty, filthy, hiding in the sewers. I just I also like who does why did Sawyer decide he was the only one you could do like a barter system? Like
Well, but we haven't done Sawyer's story yet.
no,
Yeah,
and I was
because
spoiled.
so
I think it's episode 8.
yeah, I mean that's you figure out that's just how he is. I mean that's part of his repertoire.
Repertoire.
Yeah,
All right. Is there anything else you want to talk
that's
about the episode, or should we wrap this up?
no, I think that should cover it.
All righty. Well, thank you all for joining us on our flight today. I've been BusyBee, and this is Hijinx. If you ever want to get in contact with us, you can follow us at Instagram and on X at Lost Ate My Pod on both accounts. We are on YouTube, Lost Ate My Pod or Lost Ate My Podcast. Either way, you should be able to find us. You'll know when you find our episodes. We're also on Spotify and Apple. If you ever want to shoot us a question, comment, concern, or anything else, really, you can email us lostatemypod@gmail.com. Thank you all for joining us, and goodbye.